Have you ever started a road trip and you just jumped in your car and maybe you did some, you grab some clothes, grab some stuff, throw it in the car, and you just start driving. And maybe you have little kids and you're driving for 30 minutes, 45 minutes an hour, and your kids are like, "Hey, Dad or Mom, where are we going?" And you say, "I don't know, kids, we're on a road trip." Now, that could be kind of fun. I'm kind of a control freak, so I probably wouldn't be into that sort of thing, but some people are into it. But if you asked, okay, what's your goal? What are you doing here? What's the end state of your road trip? You couldn't say, well, we're trying to get to this location, right? You could say we're having fun, we are being spontaneous, all those things are true, but you can't say, well, we're driving to New York City. Because maybe by the time you think about that, you've already driven an hour south. So this kind of makes sense. And Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which I greatly recommend, he has one of the habits, or I think it was him, or heck, maybe it was some other guy. He said this thing that said, he had this saying, begin with the end in mind. And I think when we are looking at our churches and we're struggling with, is this what the church is supposed to be? Is this what the church is supposed to do? Am I engaging with the church the way I'm supposed to be engaging with it? We need to begin with the end in mind. We need to be thinking about what is our goal? Because how we go about what our goal is dependent upon the goal, right? There's a difference between if we want to compel a bunch of people into the church and you want to and you have swords and guns, that's a way to do it, Augustinian style, right? But is that the goal? Anyway, we're going to get into the thought processes behind how we do church, what we're doing church for, all those things. But first, my name is Ben Reese. This channel is Yea Hath God Said. We help you deal with doubt to find faith. Okay, we're talking about atomic communities again. Now, as a refresher, the goal of atomic communities is to create a set of processes performed individually and corporately based on the Bible that produces believers that are noticeably transformed into the image of Christ, that edify each other and transform their communities. All right, there's a little reminder. Now, last video we talked about the kind of the dangers and pitfalls of focusing on descriptive statements of what happened and using those as the most important guide for what we should be doing in our spiritual communities, as opposed to prescriptive statements, actual commands and directions given by people who are kind of our authorities over us, and how it's just so easy to go straight to the narratives when you've got epistles like 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus that kind of tell you exactly the type of community we should make, what our goal is, and who our leadership should be, and things like that. So this video is going to be about the second point of this whole thought processes thing around atomic communities, around church in general, and that's beginning with the end in mind. So if we look at the epistles first, then we should clearly define what the spiritual community should be trying to accomplish, okay? And I think this is a little easier because, as I mentioned in the last video, if we're looking at Acts 2, which is so easy to go to because it actually describes what the church did and how they did it, right? And so there's such this temptation to be like, we can just go there. It just tells us what they did and we'll just do whatever they did. Well, we're not, obviously we can't meet in Solomon's porch and we can't just walk around and have our shadows touch people and heal people. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there. But if we're going to the epistles first, we can start thinking about, okay, what was the goal, right? Like, what were we supposed to be doing? What was when Paul was writing and establishing this Gentile church, which unless you're a Messianic Jew, you're probably part of the Gentile church. Did Paul give us instructions for what we should get done? And, let me see if I can actually pull something up real quick. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I think Titus 1, if I remember correctly, Titus 1 has this great little kind of almost like a mission, not really like a mission statement, but it's Paul writing to Titus. I think he's on the island of Crete, if I remember correctly, not looking at it directly. And he is encouraging him, and he's like he's like the guy on the island of Crete. Apologies if there's some video lag going on here. Okay, so Paul's writing to Titus. He's kind of the dude. Now look at Titus 1:5. For this cause left I thee in Crete. Okay, so Paul is giving him like, this is why you're there. This is your goal. This is your mission, right? That thou shouldest set in order the things that are wanting and ordain elders in every city as I appointed thee. And then he goes into how to do that. Now, That's pretty great. Now there is a descriptive command, and it is prescriptive, and it's called the Great Commission that exists in Matthew 28, verses 19 through 20, or 18 through 20, depending on how you want to do that. And there's a bit of controversy, as my religion teacher back at USC said, about whether that command is to make disciples or is to teach. So go back and watch that video if I remember. I'll maybe link it somewhere in the world. I'll just look for it. But the point is, we do have this command from Jesus. Okay, we need to go out to all the world, right? That's the uncontroversial part. Go everywhere and do something. But like what? Right? You know, if we're teaching, that's one thing. For making disciples, that's I think something different. But no matter what Paul is saying here for Titus, again, it's a little descriptive because he's talking to one guy, but that Titus specifically should set in order the things that are wanting. So apparently there's these spiritual communities that already exist on the island of Crete, but there's no leadership, there's no structure. And this is apparently instruction that Titus had already gotten, but Paul's kind of given him some extra ammunition, some extra support. But the point is, he helped him begin with the end in mind. What is the point? What are we trying to accomplish? What is our goal? And I'm afraid that I guess I would say that I have observed that many spiritual communities and official like churches either don't have a clearly defined goal, or they don't communicate it, or they don't communicate it effectively. And what I mean by that is most churches have some form of like, what do? We make disciples. We then teach the disciples to make disciples, or something like that. Or it's like grow, come, belong, grow, be sent. There's it. I mean, seriously, like look it up for like non-denominational churches or things of that nature. It's hilarious how it's always some form of come and get fed, or come and be saved, or something like that. Then grow be matured in some way, and then go out and do something externally to that body, to you make disciples or teach or to or make converts or baptism, whatever, right? Like grow, get out there, go serve the world, do that kind of stuff. And that might be, but to me, that's like super vague. It's not a very clear, okay, but what's your end vision? Do you see 1,000, so disciple making movements, church planting movements do this a lot better, where they say, we want to see 10 independent movements in America, which is defined by multiple streams of churches, 4 generations deep, with at least 100 members going for more than 2 years, or something like that. I mean, now that is a goal. That is something we can actually work towards. But I think most of the time I don't see that. And this is especially trouble because my wife and I would usually gravitate towards more like younger churches or plants, right? Not these denominational things. And I don't know why they exist. Besides to give the lead pastor a job and a paycheck, and I don't want to make it sound like that. That's a bit crass, but kind of that's what's going on, is to make sure he's fully employed. And, and there's some, spread the gospel and things like that. But I got to say, most parachurch organizations do that sort of work a heck of a lot better than church organizations. I'm just saying, that's just been my goal, my observation. So regardless, there should be a goal. And this goal should be well understood and agreed upon by all parties who attempt to set a practice outlined below. So that this is referring to the things in my document, those processes I referred to in the goal. I'll get to those later and explain those. Oh, the video is like so laggy right now, folks. I'm sorry, but I don't have some super cool gaming computer that I'm running this on. It's a laptop, and apparently it's a sad laptop. So bear with me here. Okay, so therefore, every activity of the body in the name of Christ should at least try to fulfill Scripture's given goals for the spiritual community or church and align with those goals. Now, this seems duh. If you've ever been, if you work in business at a mid or high level, it's business 101. What are we trying to accomplish this year? Okay, now let's make sure that all of our activities align with that. And what are we trying to do? So I think this is the key. Right? This is so important. What's the goal? I mean, I should be able to walk into any church organization, like spiritual community in my area or in anywhere, right, who claims to be Christian, and walk up to anybody in the place that's been there for more than 3 months, 6 months, right, who actually attends or is maybe involved beyond just attending but either volunteers or is a part of a small group or something like that. And I should be asking them, what is the goal of this community, specifically this community? Okay, and then what exactly are you doing to fulfill that goal? And I would bet you that most churches would fail. I know most of the churches I ever went to would completely fail in that regard. And again, this is just my opinion. There's no biblical necessary command. I just think it's basic wisdom. I think the Bible says that people perish for lack of vision. If you're not casting the vision of what your spiritual community is doing, and if you don't understand, if you've been attending a church for years and you don't know what they're doing, I mean, maybe you know what they're doing, but you don't know necessarily why they're doing it, besides the kind of, well, we need to spread the gospel and stuff. It's like, okay, well, how are you doing that? How are you specifically doing that? And how is the entire body that you're working with specifically doing that? And how are all the resources aligning behind those visions? It's not there. It bothers me when I see secular culture doing something that the church should be doing better than them, because we're the church and we're like connected to God. Like God talks to us like he's our dad. We've been born into his family and we're supposed to be in communication with him, and yet we can't do some of these basic things. It's frustrating for me, but begin with the end in mind. What is the goal of church? Like, what is it? What is the goal of your church? What is the goal of your spiritual community? Or if you were a leader in a church, like you run a Bible study, what's the point of the Bible study? Or what's the point of your small group? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? And are the things that you're doing aligned to that? And does everybody who's along with you for the ride, do they agree with that vision and that goal? And are they chasing it just as hard as you are? Anyway, these are my thoughts. Please, if you know what your church's vision, specifically your church's goal is, please comment below. I would love to hear that. Maybe I've just a sampling error, and there are a bunch of churches that do a great job of saying explicitly, this is what we do, this is why we do it, this is how we do it, and how we've aligned all of our resources to this goal. That'd be awesome. Please comment and let me know that that's there. Otherwise, there are going to be more videos coming out along these lines, talking about atomic community and how my proposal of how to fix all this stuff and do things differently. Go ahead and click in the area here. Thanks for being with me today. My name is Ben Reese, and you've been watching Yea Hath God Said. See you later.